Bo Nickal's confused. He's confused as to how the commentators didn't like the performance. He's confused as to how fans didn't like the performance. I hope to clear that up in this video, and I'm going to clear it up by saying when you're a minus 1,200 favorite, you have to show out. You cannot go in there and win a decision not dominantly. Also, you are in front of the President of the United States. You need to go out there and maul the Scotland guy. You have to bring his head to Donald Trump. You get what I'm saying? You need to put on a Hamza Chimaev-esque performance against Robert Whitaker, which I think Bo Nickal is capable of, mind you. I think Bo Nickal's wrestling, because Bo Nickal's excuse to what I just brought up would be, oh, well, Paul Craig is really dangerous on the ground. Why would I give him a chance? All of his big wins are against people in the guard. Well, you know what? I would think, right? I would think if Bo Nickal's who people say he is and who Bo has claimed himself to be, mind you, all of these expectations that are on Bo Nickal were put upon himself. He asked for that. He's the one who said that, yeah, his wrestling's better than Hamzat Chimaev. His wrestling's better than Islam Makhachev, this, that, and the third. Like, Bo Nickal has talked. Let's not act like he hasn't, put a lot of expectations on himself. It's not just the fans doing this, okay? Dana White didn't even want to give him the opportunity for the Contender Series because he said he needs more work and things like that. And Bo pushed for it and pushed for it and pushed for it. This guy was throwing his name out against Israel Adesanya. Completely disrespectful. But back to the topic. Bo Nickal's confusion as to why the fans were upset. Bo Nickal was going into this fight with Paul Craig as an overwhelming favorite, and it was a favorable matchup by the UFC. Let's not pretend, please, 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 let's not pretend that the UFC is advocating looking to get Bo Nickal defeated, right? They're not giving him tough matchups. They're not giving him really that. They're bringing him along. There's a difference. They're trying to develop a star. That's a difference. They're giving him favorable matchups so he could, become a star for them. And that's okay. But when that's the case, you have to go in there and show and prove. You have to show and prove why you're the minus 1,200 favorite. And you're a guy who went with Gordon Ryan, okay? Gordon Ryan has the best no-gi grappling record there is. You know what I'm saying? If you look at his body of work and what he's done, you got to give him the credit. And Bo went toe-to-toe with him, okay? He suplexed them. Bo did pretty damn good against Gordon Ryan. And to me, I would maybe you guys disagree, man. Put in the comments if you disagree with what I'm about to say. But to me, Gordon Ryan is obviously levels above Paul Craig. I'm sorry. And I don't care if they're doing jiu-jitsu in a cage or on a mat. Paul Craig's jiu-jitsu is not, in my opinion, what should, deter Bo Nickal. I think Bo Nickal should have went right in there, Hamza Chimaev style versus Robert Whitaker, and tried to smash him. And even if he didn't, right, let's just say he couldn't. Let's say he doesn't have great ground and pound. Let's say he's not a big finisher. Even if Bo Nickal dominated for 3 rounds the way a favorite of his magnitude should have in the grappling, it would have been much better. But we didn't want to see you striking. We didn't want to see you, throwing overhands the whole time. And then there was one moment that I thought was actually very key. And that moment is when Bo Nickal froze. That moment is when he hurt Paul Craig with an overhand. First of all, he landed 25, 40, 50 maybe overhands from both stances. But one of them cracks Paul Craig, hurts him. Paul Craig makes it known that it hurts him. He grabs his eye, backs up to the fence, and Bo Nickal, once he gets there, and it's clear though, because Paul Craig stops, his back is against the fence, but he's using that. He's like, I'm going to stand my ground here. This is my last stand. Once it becomes clear of that, Bo Nickal, like a deer in the headlights, is just like this, and then he backs off of him, to which he also mentioned in the Ariel Helwani interview. He mentioned that he wants to work on his aggressiveness, and he wants to not just go crazy and wild. And I'll say it, he didn't say it, but I'll say it, like a Michael Chandler, and he wants to pick his shots better. But my thing is, why do you want to be a striker so bad? I don't understand. If you're supposed to be this guy who could make a world team today in the world of wrestling, that's what people say about the guy, okay? If that's the case, if that's true, if he is as good as not only he says he is, but how good others say he is, there were just people saying, oh, he's the biggest lock in the UFC to become a champion or future Hall of Famer. He's the biggest lock. He's the biggest lock. Part of me feels like that could be bad luck, right? Like we only think of negative jinxes, but there could be positive ways to jinx people too, right? Like I feel like maybe they're jinxing him, maybe putting too much ideas in his head, because why are you trying to strike, bro? And I'm gonna say this: you are more of a Ben Askren than you are a Dan Henderson, and that's okay. Use your strength. Use your wrestling. Your wrestling will then open up the striking, but nobody is just trying to everybody would love to just strike with you. You know what I mean? They'd love to. It's not, nobody's fearing that. And his overhands, okay, great. But it took like a lot of them to actually hurt Paul Craig. Paul Craig was eating them the whole time. And again, that's Paul Craig. Paul Craig's not even a striker. You get what I'm saying? Imagine if that was Bo Nickal versus Israel Adesanya. Bo Nickal would must get the takedown. And if Izzy somehow defended it, right? Like, let's say Izzy just as talented as an athlete that he is, dedicated himself to wrestling and brought in some really tough guys to mimic Bo Nickal's style. Who's to say that Izzy can't stop a takedown or two or three? He also questioned Daniel Cormier. He was like, I was just confused as to what he was watching, what the commentary was watching, and essentially he was pointing fingers at everybody but himself. And that's not good, man. Bo Nickal needs to understand that. If he needs to understand that he put the pressure on himself, for one. Two, if he is as good as he says he is, then he has to finish these guys. If that's the, if his grappling is that damn good, if his wrestling is that good, he cannot be timid of Paul Craig's guard. He's got to go after that. He's got to do exactly what Islam Makhachev would do, exactly what Hamza Shemaev would do, and that is get the takedown. We're not scared of nobody's jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? We're not scared of none of that. I'm going to take you down, Charles Oliveira, as Islam, and pop your head off in a head and arm choke. Not scared of your guard at all. You know what I mean? That's what you have to do if you're Bo Nickal. You have to think if you're Bo Nickal, you have to think, okay, great. Ankalaev was submitted, Jamal Hill was submitted. I'm Bo Nickal. I'm levels above, which he is. His wrestling pedigree is far superseding of Ankalaev and Jamal Hill. Last but certainly not least, Bo Nickal says that he doesn't need the fans' approval. He says that if the fans, the drunk idiots, remember, if the drunk idiots are not impressed with what they're seeing, it's a good thing. And I'm here to say, no, it's not, dude, because, hey, those drunk idiots, they're also in the bars watching, they're also at the house parties watching, they're everywhere, and they make up most of the audience, okay? And you need to please them. That's, you should want to. It would only benefit your career to do so. If you want to be Bo Nickal, the big MMA star guy, you got to do that. If you want to be someone that the UFC is going to say, all right, let's put him in the main event because he could sell tickets, because he could, do X, Y, and Z. If you want to do that, you got to open yourself up to that and be willing to at least listen and look at it from a fan's perspective, because it's not all about just getting the W at the end of the day. I would argue that Michael Chandler came out better from the night than you did, even though Michael Chandler lost. But that's pretty much all I got for today. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, whether you agree, disagree. It does not matter. Just join the discussion, follow for more, and leave a like if you enjoyed the time spent. Thank you. You are all appreciated.